All right, so maybe you guys could each introduce yourselves really quickly. Just say what your company is and how you are interfacing right now with the election or policy, Congress, like whatever, as it relates to policy looking into the next year.
Hello, everyone. I'm Joshua Rivera. I'm one of the partners and the general counsel at Blockchain Capital. Blockchain Capital is a venture capital firm. We invest exclusively in crypto. And because of that, we spend a lot of time interfacing with members of Congress and regulators. I spend a lot of time in DC trying to convince people that I'm a real-life human adult, which is difficult for crypto in DC, but it's getting better. And we spend a lot of time with political candidates, just trying to strategize where policy goes after November.
I'm Konstantin Richter, CEO and founder of Blockdaemon. We're an institutional gateway to Web3 and secure around $110 billion from institutional customers, ranging from Goldman, JP Morgan, Citi, Revolut, and so forth. I'm particularly engaged in elections and really education around the wider principles of crypto. One of the pet peeves I have is that in the short-term nature of token economics and returns, we forget the large-scale problem we're trying to solve with crypto, which is really a universal and inclusive tool to aid people in ensuring their identity and value. So, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Lin. I'm COO of Dragonfly Capital. We're a global venture capital fund that invests primarily in cryptocurrency. And our interest in policy really has to do with how policy and regulation can impact our investments. And so we think a lot about how shifting political environment can impact our portfolio companies as they decide, where to take root and, where to move as a company, and also the products that they build. So that's our interest in crypto policy.
So this morning, Coinbase and Morning Consult put out a poll that said 47% of crypto owners plan to support Trump and 47% plan to support Harris. So has all this effort been pointless? It's just going to be no effect on the election whatsoever? Like, what do you guys think?
No, I think it's very interesting. I think most of us on this panel probably believe that crypto should not be a partisan thing. So I've spent a lot of time over the last 7 years trying to talk to both members of both parties, because there's principles, the core tenets of crypto really speak to both, more progressive ideals and more kind of, fiscally conservative ideals. So I'm not surprised by that. I think the more interesting question for me is which political party is going to kind of like do right by the industry and really engage in ways that we haven't really seen yet. So it's been a painful 4 years under the current administration. So the question is what happens after this?
Yeah, I mean, I concur. I think the general consensus is more around advocating for clear and techno-friendly regulatory frameworks. And, that has been difficult because of FTX and other political issues, and really taking crypto outside of the current political discussions between these extremes of left and right? And so I think obviously there's the freedom and privacy component that seems to lend itself a little more to traditional maybe Republican values, but then at the same instance, there's also the sort of public good, public free transportation component to crypto that leans itself really well to progressive. So I think it's really a semantic discussion, but it's clearly something that really should work on both sides of the aisle.
So what do you guys think this has been a very surprising election all the way through in a variety of ways, but even for crypto, it's been wildly surprising. Like, I didn't think it was really going to be an issue, and it has been. Which, politician weighing in on this topic has surprised you all the most? Let's start with Lindsay.
Yeah, I think I didn't expect Trump to be so avidly pro-crypto. I think at the beginning...
You didn't expect who?
Trump to be so avidly pro-crypto.
Me either. Yeah.
I think everyone here that follows the news knows that he has been really, really pandering to the crypto industry. And he's been saying things like he wants to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. And obviously, it feels good in the short term to be pandered to like that. But I think most people that are actively involved in crypto policy know that in order to have long-term good technology policy, you have to appeal to both sides of the aisle, and you have to create good bipartisan policy. And so actually, going back to your other question, I think no matter who wins the election in November, crypto is probably going to be fine regardless. And I think part of that is because crypto has become decentralized enough as an industry to be able to take root and survive in all types of environments and be able to move to different countries where policy is better if the policy is not friendly in the US. And so I actually am very optimistic about the future of crypto, regardless of who wins. But I think it's very clear that depending on, how elections turn out in November, the next Congress will probably be the Congress that decides important things like market structure legislation and stablecoin legislation. And I think those things have, once legislation takes root, it's really hard to unroot it. And so that would actually make a really big impact on the U.S. crypto industry. And I hope that, our Congress people will make the right decisions there. But I'm overall very optimistic about global crypto.
What about Constantine, Josh? Do you guys have any other different moments of folks who've grabbed you in this election?
Yeah, I think what happened with FTX is hard to really overstate the importance of that event to politics in the U.S. Mostly because I think FTX and Sam particularly had a lot of proximity to the Democratic Party, and so I think it became a political issue to distance themselves from this really broadly. And unfortunately, also because of the scope of the scam or misdeed, it was really hard, again, to make that point of what's the inclusive, transparent point to make around crypto. And so I think it's been really, really hard to get lawmakers to think about this subject differently. What I also think is that it's been a fight that was unnecessary for Democrats to pick, mostly because I don't think people care that much. I don't think I don't think your grandmother is going to get scammed on crypto. We were just...
Okay, but is there a Democrat who's weighed in who is surprised
Sure.
by weighing in?
Yeah, and I think obviously Kamala Harris is, I think, a lot more pragmatic and also wanting to win an election. And so I think de-escalating the conversation with the crypto industry that has, in the US, 50 million people own crypto. There's lots of assets and funds available for lobbying and information campaigns. And so there's really nothing to gain here by Democrats outside of scoring political points when it comes to the hard truth of elections. I think also the Harris campaign seems to be a lot more receptive and responsive to be open to discuss clear regulation going forward, and also to hopefully find ways to have bipartisan matching of campaign contributions.
I hope so. It was wild to see Elizabeth Warren be like, I didn't never say anything bad about crypto. I was like, what? Of course you did.
Politico reported that this weekend. It was wild.
Right. And Maxine Waters, I've spent a lot of time with her and her staff. And I think she generally is distrustful of like me as a representative of the industry. Part of that is SBF. I promise I like dress up when I see her, so I try. But
great.
yeah, thank you. Part of that is SBF and FTX, right? That really harmed crypto's relationship with Democrats.
And she hated the Facebook thing so much.
She did. But I do. It was very surprising for me to see her kind of acquiesce that crypto is here to stay.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we've been asking for, sir, for a decade. Just that people recognize that like it's a real thing, and these aren't tulips or something else. So I think those have been surprising.
For folks who missed it, last week at a financial services hearing, Representative Maxine Waters, who's sometimes the chair of the Financial Services Committee when Democrats are in charge, said to the current chair, like, let's make a grand bargain before the end of the year to get stablecoin legislation moved, maybe some other stuff. And I think a lot of people were surprised to hear her, push that hard. And then also in that Politico report, she was just like, look, it's here to say we got to make some legislation.
There's a very large super PAC that's crypto focused, $160 million. And so I think that is also playing a role right? Senator
No
Schumer.
way.
Yeah, it's just shocking. But like, yeah, Senator Schumer is very concerned about the, or he was, I'm not sure if he is anymore, about the race in Ohio between Sherrod Brown, who sits on the Senate Banking Committee, and Bernie Moreno, who's a longtime crypto person. He's kind of like a famous person in Cleveland, loves crypto. And so I think that the Democrats are feeling pressure. But I think it's really important, what you said, Lindsay. It needs to be bipartisan, and the question is, like, how are we going to work together over time to work things out? And I would be very sad if the outcome of the election either way gave some perception that it was like, like if Trump wins, I don't want people to think, oh, Trump won because crypto loves Trump, and therefore, crypto's a Republican thing. And then if Harris wins, I know she's a little bit more open these days, but I do worry that she's just kind of like very non-committal on crypto still. She's like, I don't know, maybe, yeah, like I'll listen. And if she wins, she'll be like, well, I won without crypto, and so I don't need to appease them. And I think that would be a mistake as well. So we'll see.
How likely, going back to Lindsay's comment, the thing that I'm asking myself right now is if both presidential candidates are saying, like, let's find a way to make crypto work in the U.S., like, how likely is it that the next SEC chair, it seems less and less likely that it'll be Gensler going forward, even perhaps under Kamala Harris, drops the, like, Coinbase or, like, Uniswap cases? Like, is that how strong a possibility do you all see that being?
I think zero. First of all,
wow, okay.
yeah. If Harris wins, Gensler remains chair, because unless Harris like says, I believe in crypto so much that like I'm gonna go to Gensler and tell him that everything we've been doing over the last 4 years has been the wrong thing, which she is not gonna do that. She's not like established enough.
Strong take.
Yeah, like I don't see it happening, right? She's gonna be like, hey, let's like, she has other battles to fight, right? She's not a very senior member of the party. She's gonna have to rely on other people. So I'm concerned about that. Also, the expectation is that the Senate is gonna flip to red. She's not going to remove Gensler and try to appoint another chair under a Republican Senate. Like, she's not gonna get anybody through. Okay. So from that perspective, it's net negative if Kamala wins. That's not saying that that's my preference.
Countertakes?
Yeah, I mean, I think my point is the exciting news here is that no matter who wins, we're going to have a better environment for crypto. I think there's other factors.
It's still better if they're still suing like the biggest exchange in the U.S.?
Yeah, because I think, first, don't forget what happened in Europe. We have much better regulation in Europe with MiCA. I think that also sets a precedent that push regulators here to kind of look at this more reasonably and broadly. And so I think, we do live in a global world, and I think that will drive some change. I'd be surprised. I mean, frankly, I understand the Senate complexity. I think Gensler has just been such a difficult character, and I think
he's the worst. He's been awful. Very, very deferential.
And I think Harris also has a point to prove that she's different than Biden. I think her whole campaign.
I want you guys to make a bet right now on this, on whether or not Gensler. Come on.
I mean, listen. I think I'd be surprised, like, if he remains chair. But I have this like weird opportunistic and optimism around our space, and so I think over time things tend towards the truth. I think there's different positions in the that are up for grabs. The SEC, obviously, Gensler. I think when it comes to antitrust and competition and general tech issues, I do think the Harris campaign has an interest to build more alliances there, and I think that could affect.
What do you think, Lindsay? Is Gensler gone?
Yeah.
No, I think Joshua is right. Like, if Harris wins, right now the Senate is predicted to be red, and that means that the Senate nomination approval process, they will put a tempering force in Harris's choices for various positions, and I think that actually, given how much I think the House grilled Gensler in recent weeks, I think most people have it in their minds that Gensler has been very anti-crypto and in a way that has hampered innovation. And so in Senate confirmation hearings, they will focus on that subject.
Yeah,
Right,
but there's
we got-
also horse trading, right? Like it's not that simplistic, I think, right? Because there's other positions that the Senate might care about. And so, there's obviously a conversation
possible.
about
Yeah, it's
different
possible.
people. And it's like, hey, can we remove this? We give you that.
We don't have much time left, so I want to switch to the Trump possibility. So let's imagine Trump wins. Gensler's definitely out then. He'll probably resign before he even comes in.
I don't think he resigns. I think he stays as a
The tradition is you resign.
Yeah, but he's just an obstinate.
All right. Let's assume for
Yeah.
the sake of this argument, let's assume he resigns. Trump gets to appoint someone new. Robinhood's lawyer recently made a great point. He's a former SEC guy. He's like, under, I think he said it was Chapter 36, we could be writing new rules right now. So if you get a new Trump-appointed SEC chair who is working on crypto legislation regulation, do we even need legislation anymore? What do you guys' take? Is if the SEC is open-minded, can we
No, we
work
still
on
need
Congress?
we still need legislation because
Okay.
the SEC is a very a regulator for a very specific thing, right? Regulates securities and securities marketplaces,
Okay.
but not all digital assets are securities. So the SEC can't regulate crypto even with better regulatory intent, right? So yeah, we still need legislation.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think if you rely on regulatory agencies to regulate a new industry, they won't have the power to fully regulate the industry because with new technology, you have new risks, and the SEC is now going to be able to think about all the way, it's not going to have the power to address all those risks. And so I think new legislation is critical for long-term crypto policy, and we can't just think that regulators are going to handle everything. And especially because the SEC is going to have different chairs over the years, and they're going to have different attitudes toward crypto. In order to have reliable long-term foundation, you need to have reliable laws.
All right, so less than a minute left. Let's go Lindsay, Constantine, Josh. If you could pass one existing piece of crypto legislation that's been floated out there right now, you just have an autocratic moment, but it's one piece of legislation and it has to already exist, which one would you do?
Something that already exists. That's really hard. I would say I don't really know what the current stablecoin legislation looks like right now, but I think that is a really important, critical piece.
I'll tell you,
to,
that's allowed. That's allowed.
Yeah, Fit 21, I think.
Okay, you like it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stablecoin, for sure. Yeah, stablecoin is the most significant, most important piece of legislation to get passed. Everyone will benefit from it. It is not controversial. Republicans and Democrats, I mean, it just makes sense. There's been horse trading, which is why it hasn't passed yet. I'm very frustrated that it has not passed yet. It would be just incredibly beneficial, and we could focus on other things.
We'll sort out the backstage, folks, and let you know about it on Twitter. All right, thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for the panel.
Thank you.
Peace, y'all.